Yeah, I had to take down all the Christmas decorations. I figured it was time, so I had to fill in with some other junk.
Yeah, our
Yeah,
tree is still up, so I'll probably do that this weekend.
yeah, it's almost time. What like the Feast of the Epiphany or something like happens
Yeah,
in the middle of, or there's some other Christmas like in the middle of January. You're good.
yeah, yeah.
Hey everybody, it's Scott and Mike, and we're gonna recap marathon weekend from last week, and it feels like it was a month ago at this point, but
God, does it ever?
it was only 4 days ago.
That's nuts to think.
Seriously.
I've
All
only
right.
worked 3 days since we've been back. That's crazy. What days? So it would have just been the 5K like this a week ago. That's crazy to think.
That's right. We'd have been just doing 5K a week ago today. Yeah, yesterday when you texted me, like, we were eating a pub sub this time last week.
I
I was
know.
like, ready to pathetic turkey sandwich.
I know. I was
Oh,
having lunch right then. I was like, dang.
I was just going to make mine. I was like, dang, that thing was so fat I could not even finish it. Anyway, okay, we'll talk about that. We can hit that real quick.
Oh
Okay,
yeah,
here we
that'd
go.
be a good one to hit.
Yep, that'd be a good start. All right. Shout out to James, George, Rondalee, and Matt. Saw a lot of those folks down there. Ooh, look at Matt's profile picture, dude. That is a good
Solid.
profile picture. Right there at the studios, just cruising. It's nice. Yeah, George was gonna run with me. He was gonna run with me at mile 4 on Sunday. I was like, George, go. The contemporary, go. He's too nice. I was like, you're fast. Get out of here.
George still has the all-time best like photo shoot for Dopey when he went to Tom Sawyer Island and got all those photos. Like that was the best. I need to do that one year.
That and if you had George's hair, I mean,
Well,
you
yeah,
know, I'd never,
I will never be as cool as George. I'm just
I know,
saying that right
seriously, I'd never wear a hat. I mean, yeah, exactly. I'd
now. I would
never.
never wear a hat. Yeah,
I know that's what I'm saying. Dude, I wear a hat every night.
it's
The only time I don't have
George,
a hat is when I'm asleep.
George, Jared, and Wade. I would never wear a hat.
Yes, that's the three exactly. You just nailed it. That's like the triplets.
I'm sure I've left someone out, and I apologize, but those are just the three. I mean, I know these guys pretty well, so they come to my mind. So yeah,
That's a good call, though. Yeah, we all want that hair. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Get the. Oh my God, you cracked me up because that is honest to God, that's the truth. That could not be more true. Oh, dude, we got to record this because it has to go out in like 2 hours. Okay, here we go. Man. All right.
I'm rusty, Mike.
Just
Hopefully, I don't. Hopefully, I'm good today.
you're good. And I just ate a flaming hot buffalo chicken wrap. So my
I'm
chest is on
still,
fire.
I'm still
It's
limping
right.
a little bit, man. I'm surprised you've been out
I
there
noticed.
walking. Like my
Oh
left
my God.
heel is all blisters.
No, dude, I'm still walking. I'm getting my miles in, but I'm back. But I'm tapering before Princess because I am gonna get a decent time. I'm so mad about that. Anyway, here we go. Welcome to episode 2221 of the Be Our Guest Walt Disney World Trip Planning Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Rallman from BeOurGuestPodcast.com and one of the senior agents over at the Magic for Less Travel. Happy Friday to you. Hope you're having a great week. And we are glad to be back here in the BOGP studios to talk some Disney with you. And today we're going to recap Marathon Weekend 2023. But hope you enjoyed Wednesday's show. I know we didn't do listener questions this week, but we did record that show before we headed down to Florida to run with Wade. Scott and I got together and we had that one cast member, one question. A little bit different type show, but I got a lot of good feedback on that one. So hope you might have had a good conversation with your family, your friends about who you would ask and what you would ask to drag out a good story from somebody at Walt Disney World. Because think of the stories the cast members have. We actually spent a lot of time talking about just that topic with Wade in person as we were down there over Marathon Weekend. So we're going to get right to it. We got lots to share because we made lots of memories just a few short days ago. So joining me today, my brother from another mother up in Michigan, Scotty G. Scott, what's going on? Have you recovered yet? How are you doing?
I'm not thanks for having me again, Mike, but I'm not 100% recovered. Like I got a pretty bad blister on Marathon Sunday, so I'm hobbling a little bit. So haven't gone for a run or a walk yet. I want to tweak that out a little bit, but I hope to get a run in here soon. But yeah, other than that, like pain free, everything feels good. It's just that left heel of mine is struggling a little bit. How about you?
So you just call that a souvenir right there. I mean, it's a well-earned souvenir is what you could call that. I'm kind of the same way. We had this conversation off the air right before we hit the record button that I think for a lot of folks in your walk of life, right? You get through the holidays, it's Thanksgiving, then it's Christmas, Then you have that weird week between Christmas and New Year's. And this year, Marathon Weekend just came right after New Year's. And so everybody headed down. A lot of us, did, a lot of us were doing the Dopey Challenge. So we got up 4 days in a row, did 48.6 miles. Of course, we went around to the parks, did a lot of dining, had a lot of meetups, had a lot of fun. Then you get back home. We're in that week where you just get back home and you're exhausted. You've pushed your body to the limit, sometimes past the limits, but then your work doesn't care when you get back on Monday night. Like you're watching the Natty and on the airplane on the way home, and then you got to find where you parked your Jeep in the lot. The shuttle takes you to the wrong lot. You're supposed to be in D, and it takes you to C, and all that good. Well, life hits you hard as soon as you leave Walt Disney World. Then you get to work, and it's crazy. Scott, I know you feel this, right? This week, the week when you get back to reality after Marathon Weekend, sometimes can be a little bit harder maybe than the weekend itself.
I agree. It's tough. It's tough. It's tough to adjust. And then we actually teased Liz and I about adding an extra night. Like, so we flew home Monday and like, why don't we just add on another night, change our flight, come back Tuesday, having another day of like non-running stuff, that would have been kind of nice. But of course we didn't, we like to maximize all our PTO. And I tell you, like, it is a tough adjustment. It's there's nothing like it. I've just been exhausted all week. I've struggled to know what day it is. Luckily, we have a Martin Luther King holiday coming up where we get 3 days off for a weekend, and hopefully, I'll be back on track after that.
Yeah, let's hope. And then Princess is right around the corner for those folks going down to run Princess. That thing is like scary close already. It's insane. So anyway, let's get to Marathon Weekend. Let's recap it. We had a lot going on. So I know you stayed at Old Key West. I stayed at Pop Century. So quickly, how did Old Key West work out for you for Marathon Weekend as far as accommodations wise? What'd you think?
Oh, it's great. So, I mean, it's no secret to anyone that listens to the show. It's my home resort. It's my favorite resort at Walt Disney World. I'm not just saying that because I was just there. Like, I think generally that is my favorite resort because the vibe, Mike, you know how it is, like all the palm trees, it's low key. The pools are pretty quiet. You can just go out there and relax. There's so many different quiet pools. It's a great place to be. And honestly, it's my favorite place to be for a Run Disney weekend, especially like a marathon weekend, one that like really focuses on the Epcot starting area because it is a very, very quick ride to the holding area for marathon weekend. So we do share a resort with Saratoga. So Old Key West is the first one that's picked up. So I get an extra bus ride, you get that extra time to sit down, right? Which is like crucial before a race. So I get to enjoy that a little longer ride, go to Saratoga, then boom, like you're right there in the corrals. But what's nice is on the way home, you are the first stop on the bus. And it's once you actually board the bus, Mike, it's like seriously like a 4-minute ride. It is so quick. And then boom, you're back in your room showering and getting ready for the day. So 2 thumbs up for Old Key West. Love staying there for race weekends.
Great place to eat too. We had a nice dinner at Olivia's with some listeners. That was great. It was awesome to have that opportunity to talk to a lot of our listeners there as we kind of broke bread. I think that was Wednesday night, right off the bat.
Yep,
was that
right off the bat? That was the first meal of the trip. What a way to start it. Actually, not the first official meal, like dinner with lizards. You, me, and Elizabeth had a different first official meal. It wasn't even on property.
No, that's right. But shout out to Brooke for organizing that meal at Olivia's. That was awesome. Brooke from Pennsylvania here on the Sunday night shows. She put that together. A lot of us got together. Awesome stuff. Buttermilk chicken all around, basically, is all I remember from that night. And I saw a lot of clean plates. So thumbs up there. But yeah, our first meal, we got to talk about this. By the way, Pop Century, it was just like always. It was perfect. It was great for race weekend. Man, it was lizard central. There were lizards everywhere. And you got the Skyliner to go to the parks if you want to. Race transportation could not have been better from Pop Century. I never, on all 4 days, never waited for a bus. There were literally 10 to 20 buses staged outside every time when I went out. And I'd usually go out about 15 minutes after the start of the bus is running. So either 3:15 or 2:45 based on, which time the buses started running. And it was just perfect. I mean, tons of buses were there. So Pop Century was great. But
so can I ask you a quick question before we go to that first meal? What do you, I know you and I like to play those what if or what percentage. So what percentage of Pop Century guests do you think were running the races, at least one race this weekend?
So, I mean, you got to think though that, that's a good question. I would say probably 35% of the population of Pop Century was running at least one race. just because, there's a lot of people that are going to be there just on vacation by happenstance. But I mean, to tell you, there are a lot of runners. I would say that the Pop Century probably had the highest percentage of runners to the population. Like the ratio of runners to overall guests at Pop Century, I bet you was the highest of any resort on property. I would guess, because I think runners are looking for value resorts, because obviously you're not going to be, taking advantage of your accommodations a whole lot. You're looking for a place to sleep and shower. And the Skyliner gives you convenience to the parks. Pop Century checks off a lot of race weekend boxes. And I think runners are kind of in the know. So I think that's a good place to land.
Yeah. I'd argue Old Key West could be up there too, only because you got a lot of DVC members that run these races too. And
True.
I hate to put this out there. Good thing I own a DVC at Old Key West because I can book this 11 months. But that is like, it is so low point wise that week. I don't get it. It's like 10 points a night for Old Key West in the studio that week, which is steal compared to like other times of the year. So it's a great value of your DVC points. Plus you're like right there and close. So I'd almost argue, because I had to wait at least 5, 6, 7 bus cycles at the end of each race to get on a bus. So it was just jam packed every time I was on a bus.
Wow. Yeah, in Old Key West. I mean, you can hear the announcers from Old Key West and French Quarter and Riverside. It's great. I mean, it couldn't be, we joke about this, but I mean, you could literally probably walk from Old Key West to the starting corrals for the half and the full, shorter walk than you could from the buses where they drop you off.
You absolutely could.
Especially in the old days. In the old days, man, it was no doubt you were closer to Old Key West. Anyway, so our first meal, real quick, because this isn't really official. We're going to get into all the official stuff. Of course, we started this tradition last year, and it's a tradition that you and I will carry on from henceforth moving forward. It's the greatest tradition of all time. It's the pub sub, because we got to go to Publix. Thank God you rent a car every time. So you flew into Tampa. I flew into Orlando. We both got to Walt Disney World within 30 minutes of each other because of how the logistics of took you about an hour to get over to Orlando from landing. I think you had a little traffic. I got over there a little quicker. You picked me up at Pop Century. We went straight to Publix. We had to pick up our groceries, water bottles, Gatorades. I picked up, some English muffins, peanut butter and jelly for in the morning, some Rice Krispie treats, just stuff for the room. And then, but the goal there was the pub sub, because we don't have Publix here. You don't have Publix there. So give the review of the pub sub, because we were giving 3 thumbs up and we only had 2.
Right. I tell you, we learned some things this time though, right, Michael, from the pub sub.
I forgot about that. Right.
And a couple things. So one thing, so a lot of us Walt Disney World veterans love to mobile order, right? That's how we get ahead of the lines, ahead of the curve. I'm going to mobile order and save some time. As we were driving to Publix, I remembered, hey, you can order online. So we had Elizabeth ordering, and it was like 11, quarter after 11 or something. The pickup time was noon, was the earliest. So we kind of failed there. We didn't plan properly for the mobile order, but no big deal, right? We've been doing this for years, right? We can go up to a counter and order a sandwich, not a big deal. So we get there, but we did have to wait a while because everyone loves these pub subs. It's lunchtime.
Right.
It's $2 off, or I don't know how the stars aligned for that. We've been talking about this. The chicken tender pub sub was $2 off if you got the large. So we're like, well, heck yeah, we're gonna get the large. And that's where we failed.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't come to Florida to get a small. Give me the large.
But that's kind of what our lesson learned was, because my goodness, a large chicken tender pub sub can feed a family of 6. It is humongous.
Yeah. An army. When they brought out the chicken tenders that they just put on the sandwich, that was a meal and a half, period. Then you have the big, the bread and all the toppings and the sauce, and mercy.
And all 3 of us ordered, they had 3 people working the station. So the 3 of us all ordered at the same time. And if I would have seen what they were doing with Elizabeth's first, maybe I would have said, hey, we can split that,
Yeah, I know.
It is just outrageous, but it was a fun little thing. And the one we go to, is it in Celebration? I'm trying to remember. I think it is in Celebration.
It's Celebration. Yeah, it's it's in a shopping center that's kind of themed. It looks like a little village kind of.
Yeah.
Everything's got.
Yeah, I love the theming of that. I know there's a pizza place in there too that I always want to try. But when you order, there's a little nook off to the side that's kind of like a mini restaurant where you can go down and have your pub sub.
Right.
How great is that?
Yeah. So we did. So we're sitting there because the first thing we did was get our pub subs, right? And I promise we'll talk about the races. We get these pub subs and we're like, dude, they're hot, because we got them toasted. They asked if we wanted to get them toasted. We're like, heck yeah. I mean, why not? So we got our pub subs toaster. So we're sitting there holding like, our little babies in our hands. They're warm and we're just starving.
Yeah, mine was about 7 pounds, 2 ounces. I don't know what
Dude,
yours
I
was.
know. Seriously, it was about the same size Mallory came out. This was huge. And so we're looking at each other. We're like, we are starving. This thing is hot. Like, because we hadn't paid for it yet because they hand it to you. And we're like, do you eat it or do you carry this around the grocery store and do your shopping and then check out and then eat it when you leave? Or we don't know how this works, but we do know that there's that little nook with all the tables and chairs. So we just decide we're going to go eat these suckers and we're just going to take the wrapper. And when we check out, we're just going to give the wrapper to the cashier and pay for them then, but we're going to eat them now because they're hot. So we go over to the nook and get ready to sit down. And I think Elizabeth had already got over to get the table and started eating hers because she got hers first.
Yeah.
Because you can finish it, Scott, because this lady just pops out.
I don't know if we triggered some kind of alarm or security was onto us or what. Like, let me tell you, you know us, folks. We are honest people.
Yeah, we are.
We were going to pay for these sandwiches, but my gosh, like three associates from Publix just like were honest and like, oh, are you guys gonna pay for those? Like, and then boom, all of a sudden there's like a cash register right there. I don't know if it was like a rolling cash register or what, but it just suddenly appeared. And she's like, oh yeah, let me cash you out right now. Like, and we were thankful for that because then we didn't have to worry about keeping that little sticker, right? Like we can enjoy our shopping, we can enjoy our sandwich. So that was really funny. Like out of nowhere, they just like popped up saying, you guys going to pay for that? I'm like, well, yeah, we were going to pay for it.
Yeah. And then we got our cups for the fountain soda machine and we're good.
I got about a 64-ounce cup. Like it was the biggest soda drink I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. And so our consciences were clean and we tried to finish it. We couldn't, and it was beautiful. And that was how the vacation. It wasn't a vacation. It was the trip and the mission started for marathon weekend. So we did that. We went over and checked in. Of course, the first things we got to move us along was we went to the expo. Now, this year, this is the first time I know you had done this in November. I didn't come down in November. No, you didn't run in November, but you snuck down on me, sucker. I forgot about you because you were like, I'm not going. Then I didn't go. Then you went. And then I was like, it's too late. I can't go now. I was mad for a second. Just kidding. But here's the deal. First time we dealt with this virtual queue for the expo. And so both of us were in the air at the time that you had to check in for the virtual queue. So fortunately, we had an army of folks on the ground. I got a hold of Ben Lappin and Wade, and you had Beth and Marlessa. I mean, we all had multiple people, pushing the buttons for us that we're connected with on My Disney Experience. And so we got a boarding time. We got a time to get into the expo. But I think our best time that we got was around group number 79, or I think I was 81, or, it was around that time, early afternoon. So here's my thoughts on this. I thought this expo was the most disorganized and chaotic experience I've had at any race, anytime. And I've done a ton of races. I've done a lot. And I go to the expo every time, and I'm not a shopper. This thing was nightmare fuel. I mean, it was a mess. So what did you think, Scott?
It was a mess, Mike. Because everyone was tied to a specific time and no one really knew. Like, so it was kind of like if you did like a virtual queue for Guardians or Rise of the Resistance back in the day. For those, you would get a boarding group. I like how you worded that, Mike, because it felt like a boarding group. It felt like we were getting on a ride, and it would give you like an ETA, right? Like, oh, it's going to be 300 minutes or it's going to be 240 minutes. So you kind of watch that throughout the day and you try to time it, right? Because you only want to go to the expo once. So I think a lot of runners, including myself, was like, well, we get there a little bit before our time. And because we know how the expo works, we'll get our shirts, we'll get our bibs, do all the other stuff first so that we can time it so that, boom, our group will be called. And I think everyone did this, Mike, and that just led to so many people, right? It was just chaotic. People were just laying on the grass, just waiting for their time to be called. Like it just felt like it was 4 to 5 times busier than it should have been if they would have just kept it as they used to do it.
Right. Because, here's the thing. Here's what I say. I understand the rationale of the virtual queue, right? It's, in theory, you don't have to stand in line. You have a reservation is what it is. You can show up, okay, when I show up at 2:30 in the afternoon, when the app tells me I'm going to be able to walk in with no wait and get in and take care of business. However, runners are a different breed. They want to get there early. They want to get their shirts. They want to get their bibs. They want to, check out the vendors and all that stuff. I just don't think it works well. And the thing is, like, we were group number, like, we got in, I think, in like 1:45 or something in the afternoon. I mean, that was the earliest time we got, and there were like 5 of us that had different times. All of us pretty late, except for we had some friends that were in Club Run Disney, so they were early, like 0, 1, first groups. But the thing is, like, I always get a dopey jacket. Like, that's the one thing I always get, and I usually get Disney gift cards for Christmas, and that's what I use my Disney gift cards for, is my dopey jacket. And by the time I got in there in early afternoon on day one, those things were gone. And the thing was, not only that, it just looked like a hurricane. It hit the official Run Disney merchandise area. I mean, there was stuff on the floors, there was stuff just scattered, and people were aggressive. I mean, it was like Black Friday shopping. Like I said, I don't like to shop, but I mean, a couple ladies were like boxing me out. No kidding, like basketball, like under the rim. Like, I mean, Paige, she works in basketball. It's all about, your elbows, putting your elbows and getting your hips in the right place. And dude, I was getting boxed out of marathon jackets. I was going to get one. I mean, I didn't want to have to foul this lady, but I was getting a jacket. And unfortunately, I'm big, so that wasn't the size she was going for. But it was unpleasant this year. And I just hope that maybe they change it up. Maybe Princess will be better because it's smaller. It wasn't what I was hoping.
Yep, it was disappointing, and I missed. I mean, you just said it. Like, we missed out on stuff. Like, you and I love the Nike hats. Like, I know this is like a really like small thing to like be upset about, but I love those Nike hats, and they had a dopey 10th anniversary Nike hat. I wanted that so bad, and you know what? That was gone like in the first hour, and it's just like, really, like, I don't know. It just bums me out that, you pay all this money for the registration, and they do a good job. I mean, the events are great. I know we're going to get to it. They do a phenomenal job of putting on these events, but I just wish there was more opportunity to spend more money. I know it sounds kind of crazy to think, but I wish, and maybe there's not a good system for it, but the virtual queue was not it for me. Like, if I really wanted something, I'd rather get there early and wait for it and not have this assigned time. It's just luck of the draw.
That's the thing I told my wife. I was like, you know what? It is unpleasant to have to wait in line for, say, 2 hours, but at least you have that option. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're willing to wait 2 or 3 hours and get there at 9 o'clock in the morning, 9:30, and maybe wait it out until 11 and be like one of the first 1,000 people in line, it's going to be unpleasant, but you have to sit there and play on your phone for a couple hours and waste some time. But at least it's in your hands that you're probably going to get a dopey jacket. Like, there was no way I could get in there to get one. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had no access no matter what I did until that thing let me in. So I don't know. I just wish they would go back to the old way and just, I don't think there were a lot of people complaining that I know of. Maybe they were. I mean, I didn't hear it. I mean, but it's not that big a deal. It was disorganized, and I think they'll learn from it. Other than that, though, let's move on from that. The race weekend was awesome. First of all, the weather. I mean, Scott, we couldn't have gotten better weather for the 4 mornings. I mean, do you agree? Overall, the weather was outstanding.
Weather was over. Yeah, you hit it. I mean, I would argue the 5K was pretty darn warm. But it was the 5K, so the shortest race, so you can tolerate it. So if it would have flipped and that was Sunday morning, that would have been a problem. But yeah, outside of like the humidity of like the 5K, the weather was great. Like, it was cold. Like, on the weekend races, the longer distance, Saturday and Sunday, I had my Mylar blanket. Shout out to Chris, who gave me a Mylar blanket that he had on Saturday. Like, you're a Michigander and all, but you look cold, and gave me a blanket, so that was perfect. But yeah, you couldn't have had better running weather, I felt like, especially in the mornings.
Yeah, I agree. But just quickly too on the merch before we drop it, because we have some comments coming in here in the live chat. I do wish, like Scott Wortman saying, a couple other people are saying, it would be nice if, like, to get a dopey merchandise, that you had to have a dopey bib maybe for the first day. You know what I'm saying? And then if you don't have a dopey bib, whatever is left over, day 2, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, all that inventory is just up for grabs. But, give people that have a bib, that are signed up, that have paid $650 to at least attempt the event, have a shot, and make it just one of each item. Make it one jacket, one hoodie, like you said, the hat, one hat. And so you don't have, the people putting it on eBay that afternoon and trying to flip it, because of limited quantities. I just think that would be a good idea. I think that's fair. And I think other races kind of do that. We got to have proof of registration to get certain merchandise. There's a lot of general public merchandise.
I remember that there was a time when that happened, though. There was a time. The problem was you didn't know what the merchandise was or looked like. You could pre-purchase the pins or a weekend jacket. You just took the chance, right, Mike, at thinking that, well, what if it ends up being hideous and you don't want it, So, but I would, if they just put like on there when you registered, like if they would have had Dopey Nike 10-year anniversary hat, I would have bought 2 of them.
Yeah, totally.
And then it helps them know how much they need to order or for supplies. It helps you prepare better. It's like my park reservation. Like, okay, well, we know we got to get 2,000 Dopey hats because people purchase online, and then we'll have the people that didn't. So let's get 3,000 or whatever it may be. I know it's a small number, but I know we want to move on, but like, man, it just frustrates me. It's an easy win for Run Disney to have the pre-purchase of merchandise.
I agree. Okay, so weather was great. Let's talk about the 5K. Okay, the 3.1 miler course is the same as it always is. I believe it was. Where you leave the Epcot parking lot, you go out into the road, and you basically run World Showcase. You run around Epcot. I mean, it was just a fun race. And I love that if you're doing it, because we both did the Dopey Challenge. So we did all 4 races of the weekend. It's kind of for me, just to give that experience. It's that get the butterflies out morning. It's that family reunion in the parking lot at 4:00 in the morning. It just feels right. It's like it's all started. And I love that it is a 5K because, like you said, it was hot. It was humid that morning, but we knew we weren't going fast. We knew we weren't going far. And, you saw a ton of costumes this day because obviously with the 5K, people are more likely to wear costumes. I busted out the old hot dog just because why not? It was just a lot of fun. I mean, it was a good course, a good morning. And the good news about this race is you could run it, get it done. You're usually on the bus by the time the sun's coming up, and you can get back and get breakfast, and you can get a full day in if you want to go to the parks or, go back to bed for a little bit. I think a lot of us did that. So how did 5K go for you?
But good for me. I'm kind of like the opposite where like, I don't want to worry about running this race. I got 3 more races up ahead if you're doing Dopey. And so I walk it. It's not a timed race. You can take your time with it. It's a good one to stop for characters if you choose to. But to your point, Mike, like it ends like it's still dark for most people that finish that race. It's still dark out. You catch a bus. I will say the busing is challenging for the 5K because unlike the other races, right? People are spread out, maybe they're hanging out in the reunion area after the race, or some are still on the course or at different areas. For the 5K, it's more condensed, it's shorter. So a lot of runners are finishing at the same time. So it creates a really bad bottleneck for buses. Mm-hmm. So you find yourself waiting a lot for buses. This is the one race, if I had a car, I think in the future, I might just drive to just so I feel like I would get out of there earlier, but it's just a fun race. Mike, you see all these families like dressed up similar. Like you talked about the costume, like they're wearing like there's some of their favorite characters, families crossing the finish line together, holding hands. It's just fun. I think they used to call it like the fun run, and it is a fun run for families. And I just love just seeing all the families out together on the race course.
Yeah, and that's the best advice I could give anybody. It's running a 5K at Walt Disney World because you just brought up a great point, Scott, is that they used to be called the family fun runs. And they are, I hope that they are still geared towards families. I don't think they use that term anymore, which is kind of sad. Because, I remember back in the day, like I remember running the 5K with Mallory when she was didn't know everything like she does now. She's 15, and won't run. But, we had a good time together. But the thing is, as a runner, though, you got to remember, be careful because I did when I was out there because I was running, but I wasn't running fast. I was in a hot dog big foam thing, and I couldn't see very well. But, you had because little kids will sprint, and then they'll just stop and turn around and come back at you. They're like missiles they're like water bugs. You don't know where they're going to go, but they're fast. So little missiles at you. So you can't get frustrated. That's their day. You know what I'm saying? Like for the rest of us, we're just out there to have a good time on the 5K and survive till the next day. That's their day to shine, the little kids, because they can't run the big long races. And it was, like you said, it's awesome to see that because that's the next generation of runners. And how cool is it that families are developing these healthy habits together? And I know you're getting ready to go through that. Emily's older now, but you've been doing that since she was younger, and she's running her first half marathon, Run Disney half marathon here next month.
She's been gradually making her way because there's age limits too for these races, right? So when she kind of hits that age limit, she does that next distance. But you know what? what you just said something that reminded me of something is that, we talk about these families and, kids coming out of the gate sprinting. Like, whatever happened to the kid, like the 1 milers or those like shorter distances that they would do
Yeah,
at Wide World of Sports?
dashes. Yeah, you know what? Mallory grew up doing those things, little, little
Yeah.
100-meter dashes and stuff. Yeah.
So I think we're seeing more families perhaps maybe doing the 5K because they've taken those even shorter distances away for the younger kids, which is kind of a bummer. I mean, there must be some reason why. Maybe it's more challenging because like you have to go to Wide World of Sports. You can't do it like the same morning at the same location. But those were a lot of fun too. Like I loved going to the expo at different days. Believe that or not, because I don't like the expo. I actually enjoyed going multiple times because it was fun to watch. It was fun to see those other kids doing those dashes, those shorter distances. But maybe they'll come back someday. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I have great memories of Mallory when she was real little doing. I want to say it was just like the straightaway on the track at ESPN, and Carissa was over there. She was announcing it. Like she made them feel like they went to the Olympics. Like she got a picture with Carissa when she was like a little tyke.
Yeah,
and they had like people drawing free caricatures and little giveaways and DJ. It was a party over there. Yeah, they need to. I totally forgot about it. They need to bring that back. That was one of the best things going for little kids.
It really was. Yep.
Yeah, it was a family event. Okay, so 5K was awesome. So we got that out of the way. 10K on Friday. You and I both agree that 10K is our favorite race out of the four. Now, give your reason as to why. Give your reasoning.
Because my reasoning is it's one that you can kind of go for. You know what I mean? Like if you want to, like, and not like really like hurt yourself for future races. Like potentially you could, like if you go all out and then like you gotta save something for those other races. But I feel like it's kind of a competitive race. You get some good park time. That's one of my favorite things too. Like, you get to run on like around the beach club area and boardwalk a little bit. You get some good Epcot time. And another thing for me, Mike, it's one of those races where I can end and it's still dark outside. And that means something cool to me because I'm not super fast. And I think there's something cool about kind of like with the 5K, like starting in the dark and ending in the dark or right as sunrise is happening. It's a cool moment for me. So that's why the 10K will always be my favorite distance of the race weekend.
Yeah, the 10K. I love the 10K because it's a longer race, but it's not too long, right? I mean, it's like it takes usually for most people between an hour and 90 minutes, between an hour and a half, and you're out of there, 2 hours max. And it's a great course. And the way it is over marathon weekend, the first 3 miles, you kind of just get them out of the way. That's the road part. You start out in the parking lot, you head out on the roads, you go, down, you come back up the hill. Those first 3 miles, you're just kind of getting your legs under you, and you can go for it because once you kind of get over that hill, things do start to spread out a little. Now they jam back up once you get into Epcot and World Showcase. Cause this isn't really, I have gone for it in this race and run pretty decent times, but it does, unless you're in one of the real like A Corral or something, you are going to be in a mass of humanity for a good part of this race. But it's a fun race because after the first 3 miles, you are really on stage a lot of the time, or you are, like you said, on the boardwalk. And there's something, one of my favorite places to run is the boardwalk. There's something to be said about running on the wood. And I just love having the fans, the people there with the signs, cheering, with the cowbells and all that stuff. I love that stuff. I mean, and I love the signs for people I don't even know. That entertains me. That carries me to no end. And I love seeing that. The boardwalk is a great place, and that kind of gets you right back into the finish line. And that's, like you said, that's a great morning because, again, you're probably back to your hotel by 7:00, 7:30. You can shower, get a breakfast, and you're good to go by 9:00 in the morning. You have a full day in front of you if you want, or go, like I said, or go back to bed again.
Yeah, I agree. There's something about that. And it's what's fun about like the 5K and the 10K too, because we finish these races so early. I love like texting like my coworkers and like a photo of me and my medal, and be like, hey, what have you guys done today? Like they're just starting their work day and like, boom, we've already done like a 10K, And another cool thing I liked about the 10K course this year, because this switches every now and then, like this, the one we just did here in 2023 was different than 2022. Still a great course. But what I love about this is I'm not a fan of switchbacks by any means, but I love the switchback on the 10K because it's a shorter race and it's fun, like coming out of the boardwalk area and see people going in. Like one group is going uphill, the other's going downhill. I love getting like high fives to the other runners. Like, I don't know, man. Like that is so cool. It's a lot different than the switchbacks you see on marathon day where you're 21 miles into it, like you just don't want to see anybody anymore, like at Blizzard Beach or whatever. But when it's mile 3.5, it's a lot different and more fun.
That's what I was going to say. Let's talk about switchbacks on Sunday.
Yes.
We will. We'll get there. No, you're exactly right. That's a fun thing because, like, you're right. In the 10K, everybody's having a good time. Whether you're going, because you're only about 3/4 of a mile apart if you're coming into the switchback or coming out of the switchback. Because this is that loop around Crescent Lake.
Yeah.
That was a good time.
And one of my new favorite traditions, because you talk about ending early, right? Where you can like get showered up, maybe take a nap. You still have the whole day in front of you. I don't do this really on the half and full because those are longer days, longer races. But the last couple of years, what I've been doing with my 5K and 10K days is going over to what is it? The Scat Cat or Cat Scat? I know I always get it backwards.
It's the Scat Cat Lounge.
The Scat Cat Lounge and get beignets and like take a photo with my medal with the beignets. That's one of my favorite like post 5K and 10K snacks. Not an ideal breakfast, right? Like some protein might be good in there too, but I love my powdered sugar, and that's one of my favorite snacks after a race in the morning.
Let me tell you too, power tip for folks that are doing this next year or even over Princess or Spring Surprise. On those shorter races, when you get back on the bus and you're headed back to your hotel, mobile order your breakfast on the bus. And then you could now for the 5K, it was too early because the everything pop didn't open until 7 and it was still before 7. So I couldn't get it on the way back in, but it gave me a chance I mobile ordered my stuff. I went back to the room and showered. And then by the time I got out of the shower and threw on some clothes, boom, I just walked down, hit it. Now here's the thing. Practically there wasn't anybody there really. Like I could have just walked up and ordered it too, but at least I got, it gave me something to do while I was sitting on the bus riding back to Pop for 10 minutes. And I was hungry. So it gave me I always got that bacon, egg, and cheese bagel at Pop. Whoo, rocking with some tater tots. You saw them. They're on you destroy beignets every day. I had the same bagel with, bacon, egg, and cheese. And we both won, I think. I had to have
Yeah,
protein.
we did. We both won. You had the protein though. So yeah. So you're beating me there.
Well, hey, I'm staying at Riverside when I'm going down in early February for a Magic for Less thing. And I didn't know where I was staying because the agency told me like where we're staying. And I just found out today. First thing I thought of was beignets. So
beignets, dude, they're so good. That's like my favorite Disney snack.
They don't have them at Riverside, but trust me, I'm going to ask for a room that's closest to French Quarter so I can just hop over.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we had those 2 races, and now we're getting serious. We had let's take a break here, though, kind of halftime between the races. Let's talk about one of the things that you and I talk about a lot and that we really appreciate. It's the announcers. It's the entertainment during the races. We really enjoy Carissa, John Pelkey, Riley Claremont, the other
Creed.
Who else? Creed. Creed's funny.
And I think that's his name. I just call him Creed. I don't know. It kind of reminds me of Creed from The Office. So hopefully I'm getting that right. I don't know.
They all do such a great job of getting you amped up for the races, entertaining you at the same time, informing you with what's about to unfold, with weather conditions and reminding you to hydrate. But also, you and I have this conversation all the time. Like we've been doing this for quite a while. Riley was kind of new to the scene a couple of years ago, right? It used to be John Pelkey and Carissa and what's his name? The guy, Rudy, right? Rudy. God, I can't remember names today. So that's who it used to be. But then Riley kind of came on the scene. Riley adds a ton to the experience because, as Pelkey says, he's down on the dance floor. He's out there amongst us runners, and he gets the stories. And like you said, and I totally agree. But I'm a sucker. Like he grabs his microphone and gets out there and just talks around. He's like, "Why are you here? Like, what's your story? Like, you're getting ready to run 26.2. What have you done to get here?" Dude, some of these stories and he only gets like 1 minute, like it's quick little hits. But man, it's like an emotional roller coaster anytime Riley throws a mic in front of anybody's face.
It really is. And sometimes like I don't even know if I want to run sometimes after I hear some of those stories because he just goes so in depth. And then like I know like with the longer distances when you get into the corrals that are further back, he goes on these tangents and like, you can do this. You got the power. You trained for this. It's your day. And I'm just like, man, like now he's got me psyched up. I just love it. But yeah, he's great. I always joke with you. Like I wish there was like an auction or some sort where you could like bid to have like a lunch or a dinner with Riley and Pelkey. Cause like, I think that I would just love to chat with those guys. Get them on the podcast, Mike. Come on. I would love to chat with those guys.
I am going to try to get him on the show because I would just like to hear like their story, right? I mean, I know that Pelkey, he's worked for Disney forever and he's been a radio guy, radio sports guy. He's done a lot, but I just want to know like their background. Like, did they ever run? Because I know, maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but they're so encouraging to so many. And they've also, so many of these runners pour out their hearts to them on the side, right? Because I mean, I've done that. I've told them, hey, this is what I've overcome this year. It's because the thing is, if you do these races over and over again, you see these, you see Carissa, you see Pelkey, you see Riley and all these others, you see them race after race. And, you get to be kind of acquaintances, not friends, but acquaintances. And you talk to them on social media. And I would just like to know a little bit about their backstory. How did they end up with the gig of getting us all, from the start line to the finish line? And, what are the cool things they have seen? Because think of the stories they know. Right. we know like a sliver. They know a lot. And they're without them, the experience for the race weekends would not be near what it is. They're a huge part.
Yep. And to go into that, maybe this would be a good transition. Like volunteers, we love the volunteers. They're fantastic throughout all the races, from handling your medals, for being there on the course with your fuel, for getting you to the right areas in the corrals. Like it's just thousands of them. Like this, it's impossible to do these races without them. But another thing that we think about with the announcers is that those performers, those artists that do the national anthem, it's 5 in the morning.
It's like 4:45 in the morning, and they're belting it out in the freezing cold in a parking lot.
I mean, they got to be like in a trailer somewhere, like stretching out their vocal cords before they do it. They got to be tuning somewhere. But like we had 4 great anthems. One was a sax solo. Like I love the saxophone one. It was so good.
That was the 10K.
That was the 10K. Yep. Yeah. That was so good. But like they're usually like a Disney artist too, like not like a big time celebrity one that you might know, but I mean they're on the payroll, and man, they are fantastic. I just love hearing them. And like it's funny, like if you're just hanging out on Old Key West, like if you're an early riser and you just go out on your balcony, and then all of a sudden you can hear the national anthem from your balcony, like that's gotta be like a funny sight,
Exactly.
Like, dang, this is a good start to the day.
Yeah, if you're not watching the video, all of a sudden, like you're just hanging out, having a little coffee on the balcony on your 2-bedroom at Old Key West, and all of a sudden the sax comes on with the national anthem. You're all of a sudden standing on your feet, hat off, and hand over your heart. Like, whoa, what's going on? Am I in the military or something? What's happening? The fireworks? Right. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, it's all well done. And thank you for shouting out the volunteers. I will tell you, more than one volunteer is a listener of our podcast. As they were giving out water, hey, Mike, love the show. Is they're handing me a water. I'm like, that is awesome. Thank you. All the volunteers are great. But those that listen to our show are incredibly, that blew me away.
Just think about the water stops alone in the full marathon. So there's usually 2 sides, and there's like a water side and a Powerade.
Yep.
And there's at least like 8 people in each section, like handing you a water. Then there's people in the behind the scenes, like refilling them.
Yep.
So, I mean, you're talking like maybe like 40 to 45 people in each station at least, right?
At least.
And then in the full marathon, there's like 15, 16 stops. I mean, there's many volunteers.
There's probably more than that. It's probably about 1 a mile.
I don't think it's 1 a mile, but it's close. I'd say, I don't know. I'm sure someone can figure it out for us. But yeah, it's definitely a double-digit number. That's probably closer to 20, right? I would say.
Plus the banana stops and the chocolate stops. You got all that stuff.
They're doing the medals. They're like getting you your food boxes. They're out there getting you to where do you need to be, like after the race for the reunion or where the buses are. I mean, I know some of those are like cast members too, but most of them are volunteers. And man, it would be. I know, like I love not the race director, but the VP of like the water parks, like Farron Kelly. Like I love it when he comes to stage and talks about everything too. He speaks really well, and like he thanks the volunteers too, and it would be impossible without the volunteers. So thank you all so much.
100%. He has the best voice, by the way.
He's got a great voice.
I would love to have his voice. When he comes on, I'm like, dang, I wish I had a voice like that. The podcast would be 10 times better immediately with that voice. Okay, so let's talk about the half marathon. Halftime's over. The one thing we'll say about the half and the full, the weather was awesome because it was cool for the first part of the whole half, I think. And
whole half was full.
Yeah. It was just
the whole half wasn't full. The whole half was cool. Yes.
Yeah, it was fine. And again, we've had really hot weekends. We've had really cold weekends. This one I would take every year. Overall, the weather, I would take it every year. So what were your highlights for the half?
So again, if anyone listens or follows me, they know I did not put in the training that I would like to on a normal year. So I attacked the half mic just like I'm I'm just doing the bare minimum this year. I just want to survive. So like 60-minute miles, that's my thing. I'm gonna take my time. And that's what I did. I just really paced myself at that like 15 to 15 and a half minute mile. No stress, just like enjoy the course. And it was enjoyable because of that weather. It was really comfortable. There was a surprise, and maybe I'll go to it right now, but leaving the Grand Floridian Way, you kind of get back on World Drive. Usually that's like, you do this like big out and back basically when you go through the castle and then you go to Grand Floridian Way. But there was this ramp because they've been doing construction there. That hill for that ramp, like really, really threw me off. And I know you did you too, right? But it was like you couldn't even see when you got there though, right? Because it was still dark.
Yeah. So, okay. So if like Scott said, even if you're not a runner and you're just listening to the show. So, there's a lot of that road rerouting around the Magic Kingdom, right? With all the flyovers. And it's great if you're in a bus or if you're in a car, it really saves you a lot of time. It's awesome because you avoid a lot of, intersections and all that stuff. Well, so we've run this route many times. You come out, it's called Cone Alley back by the Grand Floridians. The runners call it Cone Alley. You come down there, and it was, by the way, because I was going through there early. It was super dark back there this year. I mean, it was like so dark. It was like a horror movie. I got in behind a guy because he had a headlamp on, and then he was too fast. So he took off. I got behind another guy because he had his cell phone out using it as a flashlight. I didn't want to drain my battery, but I drafted this guy for a good mile till we got out where the lights started picking up again. It was super dark back there for some reason. I don't know why, but it was crazy. Anyway, so yeah, you're exactly right though. So since last year, they've obviously done a lot more construction on all these road reroutings, but it was like a mountain. This thing, just out of nowhere, this flyover ramp. And the thing was, I mean, you were a little undertrained. I was struggling because my knee had been giving me some issues since September. I have not trained like I normally do. I've been trying some different stuff, walking a ton, and my legs were shot. I found out my legs were shot at this during the 10K. I knew I was in trouble during the 10K because my legs were toast. There was no doubt about it. Like I just knew I tried to shift gears and there was no gear to shift to. And it was like, it wasn't even staying in gear. Like my clutch was gone. So I knew I was pretty bad shape on the 10K because I was trying to run decent times. That's why I found out this probably is not going to happen. And then when I saw that hill on that overpass, I go, you're kidding. Oh, you're kidding me. And that's pretty much when it started to fall apart on the 10 or the half marathon for me. We got over it, but it was funny because runners all rallied together and everybody that was, and I still running, but slowly. Everybody that was climbing that hill though was just like, who put this thing here? Like where did
Right.
this come from? And that was, it was kind of the joke, but we made it. And again, good weather and a good course. It's always just Epcot to the Magic Kingdom and back.
Yep, it's a fun course. Got to do some more shout outs though. The cheer squad, right? I love the cheer squad. Elizabeth, my wife, played a big part in that this year too. She did more cheering than she normally does because we had some first timers out there that wanted some support. So it was great to have. It's just great to see a friendly face, right, Mike? And I got to see her twice on the 10. I mean, she was hauling that day. Like she went to two different spots. So big shout out to the cheer squads. I know I always feel guilty doing shout outs because I'm always afraid I'm going to forget someone. So no offense if I forget you, but I got to give some love to our friend Beth, who did her first half marathon. Like that was an unbelievable feat, unbelievable accomplishment. So proud of you. I know Brooke did her half. Marlessa got out there. She was undertrained and did it. So many great people in our running community out there, extending themselves, pushing themselves to get that tough distance down. And I'm so proud of all of you for that huge accomplishment on Saturday and Sunday, the whole weekend, even if it was a 5K. Just all of you just did a tremendous job over the weekend.
And that's why I'm super scared to give shout outs too, because I mean, there are dozens or, tens of, people. So many people had their first 5K, their first 10K, first half. Tons of people ran their first full marathon this weekend. Right. So let's move on to the marathon because I don't want to go super long with this, but Marathon Sunday, again, you mentioned this many times. We did have the blessing because here's the thing. We kept hearing that it was going to get, and it was, we saw in the weather apps, the trend for the weather was getting hotter towards Sunday as the week went on. As we got there on Wednesday, we could see, oh, well, the temperature's gone up a couple of degrees for the high, on Sunday, the projected high. the humidity is going up. And I think it was like a yellow flag, which isn't terrible. I mean, we've seen red flags. They have like a warning system for the weather and how hard it's going to be to run in. But the blessing was it was like almost cool, at least until the sun came up for the half. And so a lot of us got in, a decent amount of miles before it got now it was uncomfortable at the back end of the race. I'll give it that. Once the sun got up, it's Florida. I mean, it was clear it was beating down on you, but you mentioned it and you were 100% right. It meant a lot to be able to get a good chunk of the race in under comfortable conditions, low humidity. Well, I guess maybe not low humidity, but no sun.
It saved me, Mike. that weather saved me because I was so worried about the heat because I kept having a flashback to 2020 where the course got cut and it was so darn hot. It got hot last year too. And I was like, man, why? I mean, it's just weird like how the Marathon Sunday is because we've had some really cold ones too. But this ended up being so perfect in the morning and it got me a great start, right? So I'll tell you, my first 15 miles were great. That's 1.5. So I'm more than halfway done. And that's when the sun started really to impact me, but I was more than halfway there. So that was a big boost for me. Luckily I was in C, I wasn't like in D, E, or F. So I got an earlier start a little bit, but yeah, gosh, I just wanted to lock in that weather. It was so comfortable. And I'm sure you probably got even further than me because you're faster than me. You probably got it to a good like 18 or 19 miles while the weather was still cool, I'm guessing.
I wish. So, I don't know. I know that, I got 12 miles in before I fell apart because that's whenever Animal Kingdom happened, that's about when my knee was hurting a little bit before Animal Kingdom, but Animal Kingdom finished it off because I'm fighting this MCL kind of thing and meniscus issue. My knee is really unstable right now. And the thing is, like, I want to keep running and I want to run at the pace I've run in for the last few years, which is really not how I can do it at this point. And Animal Kingdom's a great park because of its thematic elements, but the footing in the Animal Kingdom, because of the terrain and how it goes up and down and how it's uneven pavement, it just destroyed me. Like while we were in there, like running through Asia and, Africa and all the next time you're in the park, just look down and feel how it's, it's like walking on bricks and stuff. If you're trying to run and your legs are already wobbly, because again, we'd already done the 5K, the 10K, the half marathon, my legs, like I said, were shot. And so my knee was trying to, compensate for shot legs. I was trying to keep running when I shouldn't have. That was it. And at that point, though, we had the call to ride Everest. And I know a lot of our lizards got on Everest and did it. I know a lot of people forgot to turn off their Garmins and their Fitbits and all that stuff. And they got a surprise when they look back at their, their map for their 26 miles and their elevation climbs, because all of a sudden they're going up 130 feet or whatever. But it was great. I didn't tempt fate. I thought about it for 1 second. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna be lucky to survive this thing. I am not gonna get on that roller coaster because
I had two options because you, me and Paige did it one year and that was a blast. And it's hard to get out of that seat when you're like that far into a marathon. You sit down and like you just don't want to get up. But I had two options: ride Everest, which would have been great. I went with option 2 and I bought a beer instead because I was just that part of the course, it can start getting painful. You've been out there a long time. You've been on your feet for a long time. Like you're like close enough where you can taste it, but it's still far away. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to enjoy a beer while I'm in Animal Kingdom. And that was a great decision. I had to like slam it because there wasn't much left of Animal Kingdom after I got the beer. Right. So and I didn't want to like break any rules and take it out of the theme park, So quick had a beer and that's just a tough stretch, Mike. That's where it gets so many people. Like you have Western Way around there. You have that long switchback to get in the backstage, and then you exit out that switchback again, and then you hit that long road, that long highway. I swear that's like it's like a 2 mile stretch. Well,
it's like 20 miles, dude. It feels like 20. I'm saying.
Yeah. Do you remember when they used to have like, I mean, not that this did much for me, but it was at least something. They would have like movies kind of playing like on the long highway stretches.
Okay, let me just tell you, those things bug the crap out of me. Like when I'm tired and I'm done, I don't want to see those big jumbotrons playing the same 5-minute loop over and over. Like they just drive.
But at least it's something.
It is something. But I'm just mad. I'm like, I don't want to see Goofy driving a car into a wall. And those, I don't know. I was just getting fired up at the end of that race. I was so mad at myself. Like I was just like those. No, you're right. I'm just kidding, but not really. But yeah, no, those things they had them. Or we used to go way out to the end of Western Way, almost out to the sign. Remember that? We used to make that right. Thank God we didn't do that. And also, real quick, when we were going through the TTC, DJ Elliott was there on the left playing music, and he's talking about. He's literally telling everybody on the mic, just get ready. You're going to be going through ESPN Wide World of Sports. You will be in there for 20 miles in 7 days. And I'm like, dude, I didn't think we went into ESPN this year. Like, are you kidding me? Like, did I misread the course? So then in my head, because, of course you're not looking at the map, then you're like, at mile 6 or something into the race. I'm like, are we going to ESPN too? I'm like, you got to be joking. So obviously nobody gave him the memo that we weren't going to.
Well, he used to be eating it in ESPN, if I recall. So that's probably why he was thinking that. He was cracking. I love DJ Elliott though. He's awesome. And when I went by him, because it was 90s theme, he was talking about how many of you have ever purchased a CD before? And then a few people raised their hand. He's like, how many of you used to have a CD Walkman in your car with a cassette tape that you would listen to the CD player? He was just cracking me up. So that was some good entertainment. But yeah, Animal Kingdom, and then I call it the whole Animal Kingdom / Blizzard Beach parking lot. That whole like 6 mile stretch. I think it's about 6 miles. Yeah. It feels like 100 is like that. You get through that and you can just start applauding yourself, man, because that is a tough spot.
Mentally, because I was falling apart there, and I was walking more than I was running. I was just trying to get there. I was just keeping my feet moving, not fast, just keep my feet moving. But my mantra was just make it to the studios, because I know once you make it to the studios, you're good. Like you can push yourself from the studios, that stretch between the studios and the boardwalk, and then Epcot, and then you're home. And there's people everywhere at that point, so you're there. But yeah, God, that is the worst. And here's the other thing. Blizzard Beach parking lot, at least the last time we went into the Blizzard Beach parking lot, we did go into Blizzard Beach for a brief moment. We went by the wave pool. We ran around in the park for a little bit. This time, man, we just did the parking lot. Like,
yeah, I think that's how it was last. I think that's how it was last year too. It was 2020 when it was in. Yeah, because I've never ran in Blizzard Beach, and I got the course cut when I was running with Jess in 2020. So I never got to do that, but it's definitely the parking lot last year. I remember, but
I'm like, come on.
What would you rather have though? Would you rather because I remember you were saying, because I didn't get to do that. You're like, you get teased by looking at all the water rides. It's so hot. You just want to jump in all the pools. Would you rather have that or run through the hot parking lot? I don't know. It's tough, right?
I don't know. I was just glad to be done.
You're just glad to be done. Yeah.
So you hit and then you hit the studios. You go up another mountain of a hill, which is a joke, right? I didn't see one person running at that point. When you get that backstage upstairs, that gigantic hill by Fantasmic backstage. But the good point is, when you get to the top of it, that's the chocolate stop. And this year, I thought the chocolate was better because we got Dove chocolates. I'm not a big fan of Snickers or Milky Way. I hate nougat. I hate nougat. And so, but I'll eat it after 22 miles. I'll eat anything after 22 miles. But I thought it was great this year. And then you that last stretch of the marathon, I mean, if you're not emotional and feeling it, no matter how you feel, like I was feeling really down, but my spirits picked up from the studios in because so many people were there, strangers and people that we knew, people that were just people that just happened to know me from the show, or, relatives of other friends and stuff. They picked me up and they got me in. But, I don't know, that for me, the studios is where it's at, because you start to get people cheering you on and that carries you in. My mantra is just make it to the studios.
Yep. Yeah. Make it to the studios. I see Jason saying the same thing here. I wish there was more time in the studios. It really bums me that you go up that big hill, you run around Tower of Terror real quick, you get on Sunset, and then you don't even get to like Hollywood Boulevard. They just like cut you off like backstage right there. Like, man, like for 26.2 miles, I feel like we should get more than that in the studios. That kind of bums me out. But you're right, though. That's what, like, you start hitting like a high, you start getting emotional because you're almost there. And the rest of the course is just fun. I mean, it's just fun from there. And I call that the victory lap when you get to the studios, basically. That's my victory lap.
Yep, same. And it's always so crowded between the studios and Epcot on that little stretch by the Boardwalk Villas that, it forces you to slow down. I mean, you're not going to burn through there because there's a water stop that takes up a lot of space, and A lot of people are walking at that point.
Yeah, well, they got that, and they got those like extended like fences that like poke out, like like every like
gore yourself,
however long it is. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. I mean, there's some of the best signs are along that stretch too. I don't know what it is, but that's like Sign Alley, and then you hit the boardwalk and you go back into Epcot. World Showcase though, that last little bit is, I mean, it's the bomb. Like that's worth the $600 right there. Do you not agree? Because they play like the best every year. They play the best music so loud
so
in
loud.
Epcot. When you get there, it is blaring, and it's always perfect music. This year they were playing 90s tunes, which because it was a 90s theme for the whole weekend. If you didn't know, and it was just again, people everywhere, strangers offering you beers, margaritas, pretzels, and it literally is a party from the point you hit Epcot to the finish line. It's awesome.
It's a party. I had they were playing Cakes Going the Distance, man, I was like fired up running through there. And then it stopped, and then I stopped running. I was like, oh, that's no fun. I'm just gonna walk now. But I know like with the shout outs it's tough because there's like thousands of you. We love you all, but we cannot finish this episode without shouting out Team Margarita. Holly and Carrie, love you guys. We've been friends for a long time, and I know you love doing Team Margarita. I think they purchased 80 margaritas, Mike. And Carrie, Carrie was so smart about this too. He was working with like the management over there, saying like we got this huge running team that are going to be like they're all scattered throughout the course. They were like giving them trays of margaritas, letting them purchase more than the minimum because they knew he was good for it, and they would see him coming in line and they would already start making the margaritas for him, like so that that was just great service, I thought. And not only from Holly and Carrie obviously was great service by handing out the margaritas, but the was it like Cantina? Like I always forget the name of that place.
Yeah, the Cantina de San Angelo.
Their management team was spectacular working with Holly and Carrie. Love you guys. That was a great margarita. Thank you as always for being there. So awesome.
Yeah, I can't thank them enough because again, like I'm sure this is Richard here, Pirate 2031.
Yeah, that's Richard. Yep.
Yeah, I'm assuming it was. He echoes that. Shout out to the BOGP cheer squad. Whether it was a little kid that's a kid of another runner, a spouse, a niece, nephew, what have you, just a friend that was there. I'll tell you what, I honestly, and I kind of talked about this on Mike in the Midwest on the Patreon show this week. I don't think I would have made it if it weren't for the random, Mike, hang in there. You're gonna make it, or just a go Lizards. Just knowing that I'm a part of that team and somebody's pushing me forward, that kind of stuff means more than you know. And so if you were out there, because like Scott said, cheering is hard for a marathon. You're out there forever. I mean, we talk about how long it is to run that stretch. Sometimes these folks that were cheering are out there for 5 or 6 or 7 hours. I mean, it's like a whole work day. And it's hard to stand that long. I mean, it is physically hard to do that and to yell and to scream and to shake a bell. And, from the bottom of my heart, thanks to everybody who cheered, from all of us that out there were running and walking, because I know I'm saying this for every one of us that participate in the events. Thank you, because it did lift each one of us up through the distances. I mean, absolutely. For me, I found out because it was harder for me than ever. Sunday was the hardest race I ever did. I mean, by far. And without the support of our cheer squad, I probably wouldn't have this medal around my neck. I wouldn't have those ears on the shelf. It's all because of the support of our team. That's what a team's all about.
Yep. I can't add more to that. Well said, Mike. They are the heartbeat of the Be Our Guest Lizards, and not just for the Lizards, for everyone else. Like they're just not standing there and like not cheering all the other runners that they're not wearing a Be Our Guest Lizard shirt. No, they're cheering everybody. They're calling out their name. They're calling out whatever costume they're wearing, whatever sports team shirt they're wearing. They're out there just cheering 12,000 strangers that they don't even know. And like, that just takes so much work. And I just love them. I just love everyone that's part about this whole community.
Absolutely. I can't say that I love you guys enough, but I love you because you cared about us enough to show that love this past weekend. So real quick, because we got to kind of wrap. I do have some interviews that we did while we're down there. I'm not going to put them on this show because this show is going to be super long as it is. We're already over an hour, but I will get those out over the next few weeks because we got some great interviews. We'll also talk in the future, probably next Friday, about the mini golf event that we did, because that was a hoot and a half over at Fantasia Gardens. I will just say, watch out for Deb Stevens when she has a putter in her hand. Just don't stand downwind because she takes a full swing. Just saying. It was awesome. We'll talk about that. Scott, though, just real quick, so for an update for everybody, how much did we raise at that fundraiser? Because you shared it with me. I think you shared it on the Lizard page, but let's put it out there on the podcast because this was amazing. We had a good time, but it was for a great cause.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty impressed. Like we had 45 people, not like a huge, robust event, but we raised $1,250 for Give Kids the World. That includes a company match, which we were thankful to get a sponsor for that. But yeah, either way, company match or not, I mean, that's money going towards the mission on behalf of the Be Our Guest podcast. So thank you for all those that contributed. $1,250. That's going to go a long way. So kudos to all you that participated and donated. But yeah, I think we're going to talk about that a little bit more on another episode, and even like the Be Our Guest meet on Saturday, which unfortunately is napping. I had a really late or early lunch, late lunch, however you want to say it. Had to get a nap in, so unfortunately I missed that. But I know Alan was there. There was some great trivia that Joe was doing. I think it'd be great to hear a recap on that too, because that sounded like an awesome time.
Absolutely. Yeah, the trivia was top notch. I mean, it was Disney Cruise Line level trivia put on by Joe Fickus. So great job there. Thanks to Alan, our perfect marathoner, for coming by, and he got to show off some of the swag that Run Disney gave him. It was incredible. But it was just, for me personally, an honor to meet Alan finally, because this is somebody that's run all the Disney marathons. Well, there was one at Disneyland. If you didn't know, he ran that, and all the 30 at Walt Disney World. Yet he always encourages me on Facebook with my injury and my runs. Somebody he's Run Disney royalty, and he cares about Mike Rallman, who's some clown. I love that. He's such a kind gentleman, and just to meet everybody at the meet, everybody came out, seeing old friends, seeing new friends. I got to say this too. There was a kid, Matt. I think Matt Trax is what he goes by on Instagram. This kid, I say kid because I'm getting old. He ran his first marathon. He did Dopey. He ran his first marathon this weekend. So much energy. I love seeing this guy. Like, this guy made just pure joy to me over this weekend. I didn't know Matt personally. I'd never met him before this weekend. Just to see the joy of his experience of becoming, and I saw some of his pictures. I didn't get to see him finish, but I saw some of his pictures that after the race, the pure joy of him becoming a marathoner, that he's going to be a marathoner for the rest of his life, and how excited he was on Thursday and Friday and Saturday. And I kept telling him, man, dude, wait till Sunday when you cross that line. It's going to be unbelievable. He brought me a ton of joy. So Matt, I want you to know and also he was in our video. We were getting ready to get on the train. I was videotaping it for reels and pulling into the station, and Matt was on the train when it came in. He's like, sorry, Mike, I screwed up your video. You made it better, Matt. It was fine. It was awesome. But I mean, that's what I know we run and walk and, we get through these races, Scott, but what I really enjoy more than anything else is kind of like the Matt stories, right? Seeing somebody become a marathoner for the very first time or running their first 5K, seeing that joy, that accomplishment, like that is what stuck with me more than even my personal experiences on the course.
Yep. I totally agree with you. Even those that don't finish, I get joy out of that. I know that's like a weird thing to say, but I met a couple people that did not finish. They got swept on the marathon, and you know what? That just drives you even more. Like it takes a lot of courage. I sound like a broken record here. It takes a lot of courage on registration day, like 9 months before the race, to put that credit card info in and hit submit. You're dedicating yourself to 9 months of training, most likely, if you're not me. A financial commitment, right? If you post it on the social media, you're telling the world that you're doing this. You're telling all your friends and family, I'm going to do this huge thing. You fly down there, you drive down there, you wake up early in the morning, you get to the start line. That is like such a scary thing to do. And don't be discouraged if it doesn't work out. We all have bad days. Like sometimes you just wake up and you're just not feeling it, right? Like your knee's bad, or like you had some bad food the night before. Maybe your body's just not reacting well. It's unfortunate when it happens on a big race day, but it could happen any day of the 365-day calendar, and sometimes it just happens on a race day. Don't let that discourage you. I'm so proud of all of you that went to that start line, and you know what? Revenge is so sweet. You will get your revenge on these races, and that's going to make it that much sweeter when you cross that line someday. So shout out to those two that couldn't get it done. I'm very proud of you as well. I'm proud of all of the Be Our Guest Lizard community.
I couldn't say it better. It's exactly right. You know, we're all a team and we have our days. And you know what? That day, the next day could be the sweetest day ever. And you know, you got to go. It's the peaks and the valleys, and the valleys make the peaks just a little bit better. So you know, we're gonna be there celebrating with you and helping you through whenever you have a trouble time, but we're gonna be there celebrating with you with that sweet victory when it happens. And I can't wait because that's what a team's all about. We are so proud of every single person. I know we had like a bug too going around the team. Some, you know, some of the losers were getting like had a stomach thing going around. So, whew. So I feel bad for everybody that got that too. So that was just a mess as well for like Lonnie and Eugene and some other folks. So I'm glad I wasn't in that room, but and I missed him because you know Lonnie's photobombing. He's not in all my pictures, which is kind of a shame. Anyway, so real quick before we get out of here, medals. Let's recap the medals. How do you rate the medals this year? Because they were different. You know, we saw them on social. We saw like when they announced them, and some people were like really hyped about them, and some people were like, "Whoo, those don't look like they're supposed to look. Those don't look like
Yeah.
you know marathon weekend medals." Now,
Medal reveals are tough. Like when you see the photos, you're just like, I don't judge. That I'll just put it that way. I don't judge when I see the medals because I think some of those photos don't do it justice, right? Like I remember Princess 2022, like Mulan's medal, like disgusted me. But then I got it, I was like, oh man, I love this medal. You know what I mean? It's something different when it's around your neck too, I feel like. But I love the medals, Mike. They're bright, right? They have that 90s
yes,
flair. I'm wearing, if you're watching the live video, I'm wearing the 30th, which is probably my favorite.
that's my
I
that's my favorite
I
for
just
sure.
love that 30th. The goofy one is it's really heavy. It's a double-sided metal that's got like those cool like retro sunglasses. I think they're really great. I will say last year's marathon weekend medals were going to be tough to beat because it was like the iridescent 50th, like that Pluto 5K medal. Get out of here. That's like one of the best medals I ever had. It's a 5K. But
And it says something like return to Mickey or something. It's
yes,
like a dog tag or something. Yeah.
yeah. Those were spectacular. So I was kind of nervous, like, man, that's a tough feat to beat, man, because they were so good last year. But they knocked it out of the park again. I was showing them off today at work. That's my tradition. I come to the office wearing all my medals. I go to all my meetings wearing my medals. Like it's a good conversation, icebreaker kind of thing. And I'm very proud to wear them. And yeah, what are your thoughts, Mike? I know you said you like the 30th, the marathon one too.
Yeah, I loved them. I mean, but again, this is my aesthetic. I'm a big 80s guy. Now, this is the 90s theme, but it's retro. And, you know, I've mentioned this before. I listen to a lot of podcasts every morning, and I listen to a lot of tech podcasts. I listen to some Disney podcasts. I listen to reality TV podcasts, but I listen to a lot of podcasts on retro, like video games, retro toys, you know, TV shows, stuff like that. This was my jam. And plus, I worked in a skating rink through the entire 90s. Like, I ran a roller skating rink. I mean, the swag, the jackets, the shirts, the medals, the ears, everything was just like, oh, dude, I'm back at spinning wheels, roller rinks, spinning the Backstreet Boys, you know, and the Offspring, and like you said, like Cake and all the, you know, the Weezer and all those songs, you know, and Buddy Holly, you know, it's just like this is my jam, man. This I'm going back to my glory days. I thought they pulled off, you know, for a themed weekend, they drilled it. Like the music was everywhere. You know, they played great music. The costumes that, you know, the announcers wore were great. The medals fit in perfect. I thought the theme couldn't have been better. They drilled it with this weekend.
Yeah, it was my jam. Like the 90s, man. That's me. You're more the 80s, I'm more the 90s. So the music was great. I love the designs too. Like we're wearing the jackets. Like I love the bright colors on the marathon jacket. Just I did it. I think it was a spectacular job. Just to wrap it up. Some tweaks with the expo in the future. You know, just to be a little critical, but like I'm not gonna give it I'm not gonna downgrade it because of that. Like it's an A. Like it was an A weekend. The weather helped. Disney worked the magic with that,
Yes, they
which is
did.
amazing how they do that sometimes. But yeah, just everything was just perfect about it, and that's why Marathon Weekend is kind of the best. It's kind of the best weekend. It's awesome.
It is. We'll have to talk in the future about what marathon weekend might look like in 2024 with the announcement of Coast to Coast Challenge coming up. And I know people are already probably losing sleep over the registration for that. Of course, there'll be a Disneyland half marathon the weekend after Marathon Weekend 2024. So who knows what next year is going to look like? You know, the good news is registration for Disneyland is first. So everybody, that's going to, in my opinion, that'll be a lottery, but we'll talk about that going down the road because that was obviously
up though. It's going to be in February when that registration comes. It's
like
coming up.
Yeah, I think it's right around Valentine's Day. But people were saying, because of course, what do runners talk about in the crowds? Other races. And I heard so many people talk about you can try to get in Disneyland. You can try. Every person that I heard was like, yeah. I hardly heard anybody that said, no, I don't think I will. So it's going to be a challenge, but we'll see what happens. We'll let the cards fall as they may. We'll figure that out later. We got a few weeks to worry about that. But Scott, I think the fun part of,
let's recover first, and then let's have 3 weeks stress free before we start worrying about that.
I know.
Let's do that.
So Scott, again, this weekend, for us with our running team, we're so blessed because you're never running alone. You're never by yourself at the weekend. You're having great meals. We'll talk about my old fashioned later at Citrico's when we celebrated on Sunday night. That was amazing. We'll talk about that maybe next week as well. This show has gotten out of control, but it was fun because I got to hang with your family. You're like my second family. I was down there solo. So thanks again for another awesome weekend. And, let's do it again soon. And Princess coming up in a few weeks.
Yeah, it'll be real soon. It's always our pleasure having you join the family, Mike. Emily normally skips out on marathon because of the school schedule, so we just kind of called you like our third, like our adopted child. You're Emily's replacement, so works out good.
All right, we're going to duck out of here. Thanks for hanging with us, and for all the non-runners, I hope that you enjoyed today's show. It was a lot of running talk, but had to recap marathon weekend because we got a lot of runners, and it was a lot of fun. So we'll have a trip report coming your way on Monday. Don't miss that. And of course, our show is always brought to you by the Magic for Less Travel. We are back. I'm back in the office, ready to help you plan a great Walt Disney World, Disneyland, Disney Cruise Line, Adventures by Disney trip. Tons of specials out there right now for Walt Disney World. Of course, next week we'll be talking about all the changes that are coming to Walt Disney World. Guess what? You don't have to pay to park your car anymore. Hallelujah. I know Scott approves of that because he's a car renter. That's a good move. We're going to talk about how you don't have to have afternoon theme park. You can go into the parks later with annual passes and all. We're going to talk about all the news, but if you want to book a Disney vacation, because I'll tell you what, things are looking better. They're trending in the right direction. Things are looking good for 2023. Get that trip on the books now. So swing by the magicforless.com. Also, when you shop online, please use our Amazon affiliate link. It's one extra click that supports everything we do throughout the year. BeOurGuestPodcast.com/Amazon. And again, a sincere thank you to the patrons of the Be Our Guest Podcast. You allow us to put all these shows on each and every week. We never miss a show for you. And our patrons get that bonus show every week. It was all about my really personal thoughts on Marathon Weekend this past week, right as I got home. It's called Mike in the Midwest. If you'd like to get into that, come on over. Patreon.com/Be Our Guest Podcast. Follow my buddy right here on the social media, Instagram and Twitter at Epscott, EPSCOT. I'm at Be Our Guest Mike. You know how to spell that. Be Our Guest Mike, Instagram and Twitter. And of course, Sunday night we'll have a live call-in show. So Scott, you going to be there? You guys going out of town or what's the story? Because I'll be on the air.
I might be there. We're still trying to figure it out because it's a long weekend and we haven't seen Emily for a little bit. But I would say 75% chance I will be there on Sunday.
All right. So we'll have a show either way. So if Scott's there, it'll be way better. But if it's just me, I'm definitely going to need your calls. So Sunday night, we haven't done this in a few weeks, 7:00 Eastern, 6:00 Central. That's one crazy hour of fun Disney talk. So join us live on Facebook and YouTube this Sunday night. You got off Monday probably. So join us. Let's have fun. All right. We're going to jump out of here and let you get on with your Friday. We'll be back again with you Sunday night. So put it on the calendar. Join us. So for Scott, I'm Mike, wishing you a great Friday. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you real soon. Ooh, that baby was long.
It was long, man. And I got work stuff blowing up.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. I know. I think my boss took care of it though, so it's all good.
All right, I'm going to duck out of here because I got stuff blowing up too.
Okay. All right. Dude. You got time to edit
yeah, I'll get it. I'll get it edited. Wait, what's that? Oh, wait. Okay. Yep. I can get this. Yeah, I'll get it out.
Saved because I'm not doing that one again.
Well, I haven't saved it yet. Hang on. Episode was this 2221. The good news, I don't have to really. I just got to throw the intro, outro, and some music on it, and I'll be good. In a ad read at the top. All right, we're good. Go eat dinner.
Yeah, I'm gonna go do that.
All right, I'll talk to you. Have a good one.
See you later, everyone.
Appreciate it. Bye, everybody. Ooh, it's hot in here.